already built the Rakshasa Great Katana on Shadow of the Earth Tree launch, and it was a little bit underwhelming. The base weapon, the base damage of the weapon, the Great Katana, it was actually the highest AR out of all the Great Katanas, the three of them. That being said, the base weapon, it was the best of all of them. However, the Ash of War was underwhelming, and usually when you try to understand the Ash of War or how the weapon is supposed to be played and how is it going to alter the build and playstyle of the weapon, you not only have to read the weapon skill description, but the weapon description in itself. And if we read Rakshas's Great Katana, it reads a berserker's weapon used to endure enemy attacks and reply with one's full fury. When attacking, the wielder is less likely to stagger from counterattacks, but it will also take increased damage. This actually didn't happen at the launch of Shadow of the Earth 3, but the reason behind that and the fix that they did on the buff on the patch 1.13, it was actually something very simple. They increased the speed attack of the Ash of War, and they didn't do such a thing to increase the DPS potential of the weapon, but to activate the hyper armor faster. You see, that's the issue that it had, that usually you would get interrupted because the frames that it had in between the attacks and the animation of the woodcutter, they would be not, they would be like too spread over, and usually you would get either attack while you were winding up the animation or while you were doing the next attack animation. Now there's little to no frames in between them, and you're always going to get the hyper armor of the attack animation, which is 300 poise. Usually nothing is going to stagger you. There's many things that will stagger you, and you'll see them throughout the gameplay and backgrounds, but they turned this game into an easy mode of you just trading hits with the enemy, and it deals just a filthy amount of damage. It becomes easy mode because all you have to do is just spam Rakshas's Ash of War as a berserk while you deal damage as you take damage, and only take care or mind about healing yourself whenever you actually do need to heal yourself. This is just so powerful now because of that little small change that they did. One cool thing about the stats is that they're actually pretty straightforward. You're going to need 60 vigor, 20 mind because it rarely consumes any Ash of War, 24 endurance, we're going to be using Rakshas's armor with the weapon, it doesn't weigh that much, and then we have 75 dexterity. You see me 80 right here because of the Millicent prosthesis, we'll talk about that in a little while, but this is going to maximize the potential damage potential of Rakshas's Great Katana, increasing the damage up to 800 AR for a Great Katana, which is just nuts. By comparison, that's usually the damage that a Colossal Greatsword would have as a base AR damage. That being said, we are sneaking some 15 points into Faith right here to buff our characters and to negate the extra damage to some extent that we are going to receive, because by using Rakshas's armor, we actually do take increased damage. So let's talk about that. One cool thing about the Rakshas's Great Katana is that it also causes blood loss build-up. However, that's going to be a consequential little something that it's sometimes going to be there. Usually you're going to kill things faster before you actually proc bleeding, but since your inputs are actually so consistent, it's more often than not going to happen, and that allows you to have that clutch final situation where you kill the enemy with a bleeding, for example, before they kill you because you're trading hits with the enemy. So that's actually kind of nice. We're using just a basic regular finger seal to buff our character. We don't need to upgrade this one right here. Each piece of Rakshas's armor, if I am not mistaken, gives you 2% more physical damage, meaning that you have right here 8% more physical damage just by using Rakshas's helm and the armor and the gauntlets and the grips. And this also allows you to bypass the 51 poise threshold, not that you care about that, because remember, while you're in animation, while you are on the animation of the Ash of War for Rakshas's Great Katana, you have 300 poise. Just because that, so you're not going to get staggered at all with this thing right here. Because of the nature of the build being so berserker, kind of like where you're taking damage, a must, it's usually survivability, but with the rest of the builds that we post here on the channel, but Dragon Crest Shield Talisman +2, this is a must right here because you're going to be trading hits with the enemy. You need to be trading hits with the enemy, and you shouldn't take any more things that will increase the damage input that the enemy gives to you. So yeah, that's the thing. and then we're going to be using Shadow Alexander because that is going to increase our damage by 15% at all time. I would say that you could by all means use the 200 sword talisman, but as a matter of fact I don't really advise for you to do so, because more often than not 100% of the time you're going to be using mostly the Ash of War. The Ash of War doesn't take advantage of two-handing, the extra boost that you get from two-handing a weapon, meaning that you don't actually get anything from using the 200 sword talisman while you're using the Ash of War. So a better option in here would be the regular talismans that you would use to, for example, the Earth's Favor to have a little bit more stamina, the Turtle Talisman to increase your stamina, also the Crimson Talisman to increase the amount that you heal, because you actually do need to heal quite a lot with this build. This build is all about a Russian roulette. Either you kill something or they kill you, and if you can heal faster, it's just overall a better idea. We're using two spells. Flame, grant me strength. This gives you flat 20% extra physical damage. You don't get advantage of the extra fire damage, but 20% extra damage on a weapon that physically deals so much damage as this build right here, that's just a must. And then we have Golden Bow. You're able to use Golden Bow because of Faith, not Crystal Tear. Talk about that in a little while. But this is going to increase your attack power by 15%. It's also going to increase the damage negation by 10%. That's ideally, at this point, you already have an idea of what we're trying to accomplish in here. And if you see me being so effective on the gameplay that you see on the backgrounds while taking so many hits and still dishing so much damage, it's because we're not only increasing our damage but our defense as well, our defensive capabilities, so that we can counterattack with the with the huge hyper armor that we have right here on a relentless assault that usually doesn't stop at all. Again, like I said, for the for the mix of Wondrous Physics, you're going to have the Fate, not Crystal Tear. This is going to allow you to use Golden Bow. Now, on the next one, this is actually quite tricky in here. I'd say that the tier that you would want to be using in here is either the Opaline Heart tier, not the Bubble tier, just anything that would allow you to bypass a little bit more damage. That's always going to be a win scenario for you right here. The more damage that you can negate, the Bubble tier that gives you the most defense possible, that's going to be the thing that you're always going to be using, because you need to be trading hits with the enemy. That's the overall idea of this build right here. Crimson Burst Crystal Tier, it's actually a little bit of a nice idea. It could save you from that one hit that otherwise would have killed you. Like I said, as much survivability that you have right here, because you are going to be tanking hits. I don't advise for you to use any Crystal Tier that would increase your stance damage, because the base damage of the Ash of War is just 11 stance damage. More often than not, you're not going to be able to stagger enemies in here. Sometimes it will happen, sometimes it can happen, but it's not likely, it's not something that you can rely on. And more often than not, where you're going to be relying on this build, it's like I said, it's a Russian roulette, because either the enemy dies or you die. And one thing that you do need to have in mind is that don't smash the button for the Ash of War, because it has delay input, meaning that if you press the Ash of War and at this next frame you see that the enemy is going to attack you and that you have a chance to heal before they kill you, if you press the attack of the Ash of War, the button for the Ash of War prior to that, is going to continue with the animation. Your character is going to continue commit through the animation, so just tap once each time that you want to be using Rakshasas, because that's going to allow you to back off whenever you actually do need to back off and heal, and then continue with the relentless animation. It also crouches to some extent a little bit sometimes here and there, so that will allow you to bypass with the amazing hitboxes that Elden Ring has right here, to bypass some damage by movement that the enemy is going to deal through you. And I don't really need to say that much. You see me all throughout the rendition of the gameplay. You do sometimes, the only thing that you have to consider while using this build is sometimes heal, sometimes take advantage, take the time to heal, and sometimes you're going to die, but more often than not, this is just going to be a fun fest of you spamming the Ash of War and killing the enemy before they kill you, because that's just how powerful this thing is. Anyways, if you like the content, like and never appreciate it. Not only that you're a gorgeous and beautiful person, you're the gorgeous and beautiful person, subscribe to the channel, join the Discord, have a beautiful day, goodbye.